allies that we have had over the past century have been. I know.
We have a what's called a special relationship.
Exactly.
in State Department talk with Great Britain. We've had it all my life. We no longer have that, to the point that a State Department representative, who I'm not making anonymous, he did not want his name used, said to the press of the United Kingdom, there is nothing special about our relationship with Great Britain. How about that one?
It's shocking. It's a shocking. That should be a shocking statement. Unfortunately, it's sort of par for the course for this administration.
Yeah, it is. It is par for the course. I mean, it is just. Right now, I'm flipping through to see if I can get the precise, the precise statement, so that I don't in any way say of what the British newspapers said after that. They were just horrified.
Yeah, they were flabbergasted. I mean, it was maybe the worst statement between the two countries since World War One.
Since we have had that special relationship.
Yes.
Between the two of us.
I just find this tremendously discouraging, except for the fact that in less than 3 months we're going to get an opportunity to replace the person who's running this particular foreign policy.
Yep. May I bring up, Ed, the other special relationship we have with Israel?
Yes.
In the speech that the president gave last year, the rather famous May 19th speech, he said that he wants the borders based on the 1967 lines. What that means is before Israel won the war.
Right.
That's what it means. We have never asked any country that won a war to go back to the lines, the other lines, even our enemy. When North Vietnam took over South Vietnam, we have never since then say, hey, go back to the 1975 lines. We don't do that. Instead, we gave them diplomatic relations at both North and South as one country, the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, and we have trade relations as well as diplomatic relations. But that's an enemy for which we lost over 57,000 American lives.
Yep.
With a friend, we say, okay, you had this, now go back. That is, are we going to go back to our 1775 lines? With Great Britain?
and with Canada.
With Canada?
Sure.
Actually, you wouldn't be talking to me. I'm in California. I'd be in Mexico if we go back to our lines before the Mexican-American War.
Exactly. I know there's some people in the southwestern United States that want to reclaim the entire 1848 land settlement. But
that's right.
Yeah, so I mean we would consider that absurd, and I understand why Israel considers that absurd. But that's part of a pattern there too. I mean,
it is indeed.
Barack Obama's first entry, if you will, into the Israeli-Palestinian conflict was to insist that Israel stop building housing in areas that Israel already controlled. A demand that even the Palestinians hadn't made, but then had to insist on after Obama made it. It was a huge error, and it completely stalled negotiations. I think to this day it's stalling negotiations.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, the Arab Palestinians take that as their cue, what the United States does. And if that's what we insist on, if that's what we make the biggest noise about, then that's giving them a very serious cue.
So the big question that comes out of all of this, because I mean we could talk about global politics all the way through this. Do you think that this is deliberate, or do you think that this is incompetence, or is it a mix of both?
I think it's deliberate, but I don't know. I don't make it. I just want to tell you that in the book I make no mind reading. Everything in it is absolute fact. I don't try to delve into what I think he's thinking, because I don't know.
Yeah.
No one knows what anyone's thinking, and I don't want to. With people who support President Obama, I don't want to get into petty arguments about what he thinks, because who the devil knows? Only he knows. But I do know what he's doing, and what he's doing is fact. It isn't opinion. It could go on. Look what he's done with Honduras. Honduras, an ally of ours, boy, was it terrific during the Central American War that was being waged. we had the opposite, without getting into the whole story, which I do get into in the book. The two sides in a constitutional conflict.
Right.
One side was President Zelaya, who was very, very left-wing. He had three allies on his side: the Castro brothers, Raul and Fidel, and Hugo Chavez of Venezuela, and Barack Obama of the United States.
Yeah, it was unbelievable policy in that situation. I couldn't believe
it
what was
passed
happening.
by unnoticed by most of the American press.
Oh yeah, but we were covering it pretty well over at Hot Air. I mean, we were
Good.
we were really pretty furious about that one, and still are to this day. That was a terrible policy in Honduras, and
that's saying something.
Yeah,
I mean, God, read the remarks of Secretary of State Clinton, Hillary Clinton. Holy smoke! We talked about Zelaya as though he was a savior.
Yeah, he was Chavez in process. He was going to be another Hugo Chavez.
No question.
No question. And I understand that America gets dinged a lot for following its own national interests at the expense of the national interests of others. But that's really what nations are supposed to be doing. And it's good to try to forge mutual interests so that you don't have conflicts. But in the end, we're supposed to be looking after our own interests. And this administration simply has subordinated our own national interests to what, Bruce? What I mean,
we have become a mini UN.
There you go.
That's what we've become.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, Bruce, the book is Obama's Globe, a President's Abandonment of U.S. Allies Around the World. It's on sale now. It just went to press a couple of days ago.
Yeah, August 15th. That publication date was intentional. I aimed it for a particular purpose, and I'm very frank in saying what it was. It was to have some. It was hopeful. I was hopeful that it might be able to do some good prior to the election.
So there you go, people. If foreign policy isn't at the top of the list, it's got to be part of what we're discussing, and Obama's Globe sounds like a must-read.
It is what a president does.
Yes.
And I know you don't have all the time in the world, but I just want to mention this one thing.
Yeah.
I wish people of the United States would understand what a president does in contrast to what a Congress does. A Congress has final jurisdiction in almost everything that is domestic and economic. They are the ones who say yes or no to a budget. They have the final jurisdiction. In terms of foreign policy, the President of the United States has final jurisdiction. The founders recognized you couldn't have 535 commanders-in-chief. You can only have one.
Right.
And when you hear in seeing some 20 debates, and there were 20 debates of candidates this past season.
That's right.
I found that over 90% of the questions that were asked had no relevance to what the president could really do. And candidates that answered on day one, "I'm going to repeal Obamacare." No, they're not. They're not going to appeal. They're not going to repeal it on day 1, day 10, day 100, day 1,000. They can't.
Right.
It's already a law that's been made by the Congress and signed by a president. That is the law. They can't do that. The Congress can do it. And now, thank goodness, Romney never said that, but a number of the candidates did, and they would be asked these questions. I had the feeling that many of the candidates didn't know what they could do or not do. But when it comes to foreign policy, just do it. And by God, presidents have just done it. President Kennedy said to former Vice President Nixon in the Oval Office when they were discussing foreign policy, "This is the stuff of presidents."
Right.
And it is.
It's interesting that obviously the interest of the electorate is on a very bad economy, a very shaky fiscal foundation for the entire West, and not just the United States. So it's understandable why the election is focusing on that. But this is really what matters with the president.
But I got to tell you, Ed, to me, it is not understandable because I cannot vote for a president based on the economy. He's going to do everything he can to advocate. That does have power and influence, but he doesn't have any power to appropriate, and that is what counts. If I'm interested in economics above all, I'm going to be darn dependent and campaign all over the country for members of the House of Representatives and senators. If my interest is foreign policy, I'm going to do the same for a president who understands the importance of what he can do. And Ed, if you go back over the presidents from Truman forward, after the end of the World War II forward,
sure,
no matter what they said about what they're going to do when they get into office, just select the most important policy historically. If you say Truman, it's the atom bomb. If you say Ike, it's Korea. If you say Kennedy, it's the Cuban Missile Crisis. If you say Johnson, it's Vietnam. Look, I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but that's what it is.
No, Reagan, the Cold War, yeah, absolutely. No, that's where the legacies come from. The legacies come. The legacies.
That's what they do.
Right. It's a good point. It's a great point. And so it means that people really need to buy your book even more. I'm all about promotion, man. That's all. That's what I do. Well, Bruce Herschensohn, what a delight to speak with you today. Thank you so much. We'll hopefully we'll get a chance to talk with you in the future.
And it's terrific talking to you. Thanks a million.